All right, let's get into the world stage, the projection behind the projection, the new heaven and earth that is here, and the return of Jesus Christ, the Son of Man, all these things, and get into some deep water, okay? Because y'all need to understand that y'all are being given a book, and y'all are being taught this book for decades, like parrots, programming you to think a certain way to where you can never see the day and hour. And this is where Jesus, who lives inside of all of us, okay, he's the one who is blinding the eyes and deafening the ears, so they cannot see and they cannot hear, even if they could see, even if they could hear. Okay? There's some things going on here on multiple levels with these things that's being said here. All right? And this is where we need to understand some things they're telling us are kind of dark speak, all right? And coming from monkeys, supposedly, as they teach, it never meant we're not still monkeys, okay? And it's just a higher form of chimpanzee. We're 98% chimpanzee. We're only 2% difference. That 2% difference makes you that so-called Homo sapien, and that Homo sapien, that human being, is only 2% more, okay? So this is where the aliens, so-called, are the same as man. They're 2% more than man, as far as what we think of as like, you know, like there's alien, that's the light inside of us. God is light, and aliens are light. They operate on the higher dimension, and the infrared or higher. Okay, so all these things are there to teach us. So this light that's being operated within us, this 9-volt battery, this positive and negative that we have inside of us, all right, this is working through the projection, and that light up there is being pushed to Earth to project our reality, to create matter so it's condensed form, so that light from the sun is being projected and pushed. It's particles being pushed to this earth, creating us. Okay? So this is where that forms our gravity in one shape and form. Okay? Because the sun and moon work as magnets. All right? And the sun is a negative, putting off a positive. And then that's where it gives life. And then the moon is opposite of that, and that's where it takes life, such as decay. Okay? So these things work together as a positive and negative. That's where you get the torus field and all these things, all right? So me and the family went to the Exploratorium on Pi Day 2024. And with that, we went to that, and it's teaching about magnetism and electricity and lights and all these things. You can see these things firsthand, and it's teaching about mirrors and projections and all these things, right? So all these things are coming, all right? And this is part of that veil being lifted. It's one thing to see these things in a textbook and science books or whatever, and it's another thing to see it in human form. And some of these things are magic in a way, all right? How they make this tint and they project things up, and it comes down on a mirror, and that's part of that sea of glass, that mirror, and you can see the projection of our reality, and things are upside down and all those types of things. Okay, so this is kind of telling us things because our eyes flip things, and when we look in a mirror or whatever, it's actually flipped, because when we can't shake our hand properly in those things, so it's flipped in a reversal. So the way we see ourselves is not the way the world sees us. And it's kind of like probably since Jesus was a spiritual person and he spoke in parables, what he heard people talking to him, he probably heard the opposite and said, shut. And that's why he knew that people were going to kill him and all those other things. But he knew he had to do it because he had to come in and set this new age up. And through this age he was setting up, all right, it started back then and now it's being fulfilled now, and he lives within us, all right? So we need to think about these things a little bit, because Jesus died so we can do all things, okay? Jesus died so my so-called sins, past, present, future, they would be washed away as if I never sinned. I've never broken the law with Jesus. Okay? That's because we are the sons of God at that point. We recognize this light inside of us, this positive and negative, this 9-volt battery inside of us. We recognize this light is coming down into us, and we are the crystal ball, this crystal mechanism, the temple, the pineal gland, all these things coming together and creating our reality, the spark of the sperm and egg coming and creating the heart and the brain after. That's the positive and negative, the love. And then you have to think about what you love. Okay? Because Jesus has given us a light, and we have a light of nature, but there's also a light of carnality that works against the nature sometimes. Sometimes they align up. But this is where we see man being transformed throughout time. And as Jesus comes back, man and the old man, they become separated. And the ones that are given over to the flesh become the flesh. Okay, and they no longer start to look like the image that was given to them. Okay, because man was made in the image of God. And since we're living in this time where God and man's being separated and these things are happening in a spiritual / carnal or whatever, this is where we're going to get that mass detox where people are going to be given that vegan lifestyle or whatever to overcome and whatever. And if they can't, they're just going to shoot their head off or go to war and all this other shit. That's where the dead, and they're worshiping the dead. They're worshiping this Lord God of death, of whatever. If you don't do what I tell you, you got to get the hell out of here. And that's Genesis 2. We see 6 days God rested. That's like 6,000 years of a certain time frame, of a certain age of earth. And then we see Lord God coming in from Lord God to Noah. That's another age. From Noah to Jacob Esau. That's another age. Jacob Esau, so on. Okay, folks? So these are these things coming. And we live in no other time like this. So this is where we live in that revised Roman Empire and the Antichrist, the Jesus, the Messiah. They all come to break apart this Roman Empire. As it's broken apart, this is where we're divided by the bowels, the ballots, and the dawn, the donation, that ray of light. He takes his Republicans and they go to the lower depths of hell and that Eden that's been set up on the East Beast Coast and all that shit, right? They're going to go into their 80s, not the 20s. The 20s is where your life is. The 80s is where you grow old. We need to be as children, Jesus says. Children, they have no wrong. They have no right. They just want to do what feels good then and there. They know that whatever, right? And this is what Jesus has given us, to test these things. But also there is the role of nature. This is where Jesus is not going to just go jump off a cliff. Okay? So there's rules and boundaries of life within itself, but this is where the programming comes in and the test of men and where he's given us a key to experience life, and they're trying to take that key from you. And that's the bond. Okay, so if you're bond, you don't have a key. If you're free, you have a key to go and experience things, and you can discover what's right for you and what's wrong for you. That's where Jesus said, if it's a sin to you, it's a sin to you. Okay? If you live by nature in this corrupt world, you might have a lot of fucking rules. All right? So, this is where Jesus said you have to follow me. Because this world is so corrupt. And I just can't tell you one thing or another because it changes daily. And it depends on where I'm at. It depends on the situation of the day or whatever. And sometimes I just got to leave for 40 days and 40 nights and go out to the desert and be by myself sometimes and unload the frequencies and shit. So, this projection, the people in the tent, right? Lot, he pitched his tent towards Sodom. All right. So these are some things we need to remember. Cain, he was given the mark. He was the vagabond and shit. And then we see that the light given in the end. And then that mark of the beast given in the end also. And that mark of the beast, who's the keeper of sheep? Well, that's Abel. All right. That's the Bel worship. So the beastmen are the ones who worship Abel, the Bible. That's where you're left behind. You don't see Jesus. You don't see the millennium coming. You don't have the eyes and ears to put it all together. That Jesus died for all sins. That if you're going to church, you don't understand because you are the church. You are the temple where Jesus resides. And that's where they're saying blah, blah, blah. And they take your light and then you go to McDonald's after church and destroy your fucking temple. Or whatever the world has laid out for you. And there's a time and season for all things. You got to test all these things out. But when they came out with the movie Super Size Me in 2004, I think it was. All right. Well, that was the time to stop eating your fast food. Just like I did. And just like a couple other people I knew back then. All right? That was your time to quit drinking soda. And, oh my God, dude. So, Jesus, he says we can do all things. We need to test these things, right? We have a temple we're given. But unfortunately, this world, and we live under the Bel worship, and we live under the time where Jesus is coming back, and it's coming to these 2 points, and all these things are being tested upon men. And as these things are being tested, all this information is being gathered, all these chemicals, whatever's all being used, right? We're in that long-term study. And as we're in that long-term study, looking backwards, okay, you got to look backwards to understand these things because the beginning is declared from the end. So as that long-term study is coming to an end of that 50, 60, 70 years on the hospital, the AI is going to put it all together and tell you where y'all all fucked up, okay, in one way, shape, or form. And as it does that, it's where the people flip out. They have to go and take that exam time. They have to crash course it and figure out all this information, all this, you see what I'm saying? So we're going to end it here just because of time and break some more things down, all right?